Zora Neale Hurston was one of the most famous civil rights activists and authors in the early 1900s. She was born on January 7, 1891, in Alabama to two former slaves, John Hurston and Lucy Ann Hurston. After escaping slavery, her father was a Baptist preacher, farmer, and carpenter, and her mother was a schoolteacher. When she was about 3 years old, her family moved to Eatonville, Florida, which at the time was one of the only all-black towns in the U.S. She considers this to be her hometown because this is where she grew up and felt at home. In 1904, her mother died and her father remarried shortly after. Her father and new wife sent her off to a boarding school, but she was expelled when they stopped paying her tuition. She finished high school at Morgan State University and graduated in 1918. She then began her undergraduate education at Howard University and was part of the Zeta Pi Beta sorority, and also co-founded the university's newspaper. She ended up leaving Howard University in 1924 and began to attend Columbia University in 1925 after she was offered a scholarship for being the only black student. Throughout her college education, she worked a variety of jobs to afford school, including being a maid and writing articles and stories. She graduated Columbia in 1928 at 37 years old with a bachelor's in anthropology. Shortly before graduation, she married Herbert Sheen in 1927, but the marriage ended in 1931. 8 years later, she married Albert Prince, but that marriage ended 9 months later. Throughout her life, Zora did an immense amount of writing. Her works influenced authors including Ralph Ellison, Toni Morrison, Gayl Jones, Alice Walker, and Toni Cade Bambara. One of her first serious recognitions to her writing was when her short story Spunk was selected for the New Negro, an anthology of stories written by African Americans. Her short story, The Gilded Six-Bits, was written in 1933 and became a movie in 2001. She wrote Mules and Men, which was published in 1935. She collaborated with Langston Hughes in writing Mulebone, a comedy of Negro life, in 3 acts, which was not published until 1991. In 1937, she was awarded a fellowship to conduct research in Jamaica and Haiti and wrote Tell My Horse, which documented her experiences on the journey. Her most popular work was Their Eyes Were Watching God, which was published in 1937. This novel looks into Janie Crawford's teenage life and is set in the 20th century. Today it is considered to be an influential work both in African American literature and women's literature. Zora Neale Hurston's works were not always as popular, though. They gained popularity after Alice Walker, one of the writers she had influenced, looked deeper into Zora's stories and began to reference and talk about them in her life.
She loved her own culture, including its language. But even more to my joy was her realization that our attachments, our marriages, our affairs, our love things, whatever they are, they're actually on the way to helping us develop who we are. They're not an end in themselves. So the notion that people get married and pretty much that's it.
Alice Walker was absolutely instrumental in allowing a much larger audience to even know about Hurston. I think at the time in '79 when she did her first essay on Hurston, all of Hurston's books were out of print.
The great wonder about having ancestors in your line of work is that you have people to show you what is possible and what has actually happened. Her work had a sense of black people as complete, complex, undiminished human beings. And that was crucial to me as a writer. I I wanted people to pay attention. I realized that unless I came out with everything I had supporting her, there was every chance that she would slip back into obscurity.
In addition to her famous works of literature, she received recognition for her civil activist deeds too. In 1934, she established a School of Dramatic Arts at Bethune-Cookman University that focused on pure Negro expression. In 1956, the college recognized Zora by naming the College Award for Education and Human Relations after her. To this day, the college preserves her cultural legacy. She spent the last decade of her life as a freelance writer for magazines and newspapers, but was fired for being too highly educated for the job. In 1960, she was experiencing troubles both financially and medically, so she entered St. Lucie County Welfare Home, where she suffered a stroke and died from hypertensive heart disease on January 28th. She was noted and is still noted as a scholar and an activist at a time where black women were supposed to be neither, leading her to the fame that she attained throughout her life.